Welcome to video 37. Let's update our init.php and make sure we have a couple other blank files in place ready for us to work with. So if we open up app init.php, here underneath shop tags, I want to define a couple other variables related to PayPal. So the first one I'm going to call PayPal mode. And the mode that we're referring to here is either the sandbox mode or live mode, meaning sandbox is some place that we can test. We can use test transactions and send test money through without having to worry about actually paying for any products. So we're going to set up our PayPal mode to sandbox initially. I'm going to add a comment here because you'll want to switch this over to live in the future once you're ready to go live with your application. In addition to this, let's go ahead and also set a currency. So I just duplicated that line, and we're going to set the currency to USD. If you want to set the currency to something else, you're welcome to here, but this is what I'm using for this tutorial. Then let's also set a development ID. I'm going to call it dev ID, DEV ID. I'm going to leave that blank for a second. I'm also going to set up dev secret. And then I'm going to duplicate these two lines and set up a live ID and a live secret. And this is how we authorize with PayPal. If we go back to the PayPal website, specifically developer.paypal.com, let's take a look at the applications section. And obviously you need to be logged in with your account here. So we have an application, Killer Sites Cart, and it provides us a client ID and a secret that we can use to authenticate with PayPal. Basically, it's a way of PayPal saying, oh, your real application, do you have the right authorization to access and retrieve data? So I'm going to copy the client ID. You'll notice these are the test credentials. I'm going to copy the client ID into the dev ID constant here, and then the secret is going to be copied as well, like so. And then also, if you want, I'm going to leave it out of mine because I'm not going to worry about testing live, but the live credentials are here. You click show and you'd copy and paste the live credentials in place. After this tutorial video, I'm going to be deleting my developer account with PayPal, so none of this will actually work. So obviously you'll need to have your own PayPal account and your own application set up for this to work. So with those constants in place, that gives us some basics that we can refer to in our other files. Let's also make sure we have a couple empty files built out. We're going to want a checkout.php. And let's do a quick modification to our cart view. So v public cart.php. The first thing we want to do is we want to control whether this particular form appears. So this is the Pay with PayPal submit button. So I'm going to just double check with a little bit of PHP. I'm going to set up a variable. I'm going to call it items. And I'm going to do this get data. And I'm going to check for cart total items. And I'm going to use false to, rather than echo out this result, I'm going to store it within the items variable. So we're going to check the number of total items that are in the cart. And we're only going to show this form and the form button if the number of items is larger than 0. Then down below the form, I'm going to close out with my closing bracket. And then one other final thing in the action, I want to update the action to access our checkout.php page. So if I save it, let's do a quick test. If we look at the shopping cart, you'll notice the button is gone. If we add something to the shopping cart, you'll notice the Pay with PayPal button appears again. So now that it's connected with the checkout.php, we can start working with that particular file. A couple other files that we're also going to need. We're going to need a success.php. I'm not totally sure if you have this set up already, but just in case you don't, we're going to be working with this base code and modifying it a little bit. All we're doing here is we're including our init file. We're setting the page class to success in case we need to add some CSS styling to this particular page. We're emptying the cart and setting the total items and total cost to 0. We're retrieving the category navigation and showing our view. So pretty straightforward. I'm not totally sure if I covered this. I don't think so. So make sure you copy this code down and put it in place. We also need a vPublicSuccess.php. And we're going to modify this code a little bit, but it's pretty much kind of boilerplate code similar to the other views. So we include our header and our footer. We have our div with an ID of content, and we have a header that echoes out the page title and a brief thank you message. And then the last thing here is we want to update, we want to create a new model. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate an existing model, so we have a couple pieces of base code to go from. So I'm going to duplicate the cart model. I'm going to call it m_payments.php. It's going to be the payments class. And it's going to handle all the tasks related to payments. In our case, specifically PayPal payments. But you could easily update this to include other functionality. Perhaps you accept credit cards and you want to include that. You could also do that here. So we have our construct. Let's make sure we update the class name to payments. And I'm going to go ahead and remove all the unnecessary code here. Actually, I think what I'll do is I'm going to save the first one, the get. So we have something to work with, but I'm going to delete the rest. So let me skip down to the bottom. Let me wipe the contents of this. We're going to update this in the future, and we're going to update the comments. But this at least gives us a kind of a basic framework to work with in the future. So I'll save this file, and I guess the last couple things that I want to change, make two changes. One, I want to add a little bit of styling that we're going to use in a future video. So within resources, CSS, style.css. I'm going to do a quick search for alerts. I'm going to add an alert style for an error message because I notice we're actually missing that. So I'm going to duplicate success, exchange that for error, and we want a 1 pixel solid red border, and we're going to go with a light kind of a pinkish background, and that is going to be FB, F1, F1. Okay, so I'm going to save that file. We're going to be using this error message in case while we're trying to check out if there's some sort of error that happens, we're going to have a way to visually display that error message. And then the final thing within our products model, so mProducts.php, we want to change the get code here. So if we're returning multiple items, basically what we're doing is we have, let's see here. So we're trying to get products based on an array of IDs. And I also want to include, in addition to the ID, name, description, etc., I want to update this to also include a quantity value. So this will make it easier for us to access the quantity when we're trying to pass information to PayPal. So make sure you have that final comma. We have a quantity, and we're going to set that to our session. Cart. And then we're going to pass in the ID, row ID. Like so. So I'll save this file. Let's make sure to save our init file. And that'll be it for this video.